camber bolts, so we go right back to where we were.
So what we've got here is a situation that's a little different. I give a 30-day mechanical warranty on all the used cars I sell. Now, I don't trust other shops for very good reasons. We go through everything before we sell it. We make sure it's good. I don't want it coming back. In this case, I sold this customer a Range Rover. There is a huge communication barrier. They speak Spanish, I do not, and Antonio has not been available to translate for me. In this case, they took it to another shop for an unknown reason, and they were told they needed lower control arms on both sides to fix a suspension issue. Now, we test drove it, we checked out the control arms, we can't find anything wrong. Typically what happens on a control arm is either the pressed in ball joint will go bad and have a lot of slop, or the bushings will go bad and crack out and cause a lot of back and forth movement and cause some clunking. Well, neither is the case with this car, but I'm a man of my word. I operate my business with integrity, and these people believe they need control arms because of another shop, so we are putting new control arms in at no cost to the customer as a courtesy service. So that's what Steve's working on this morning. Now, the reason we're doing it today when we're normally doing YouTube stuff is we are coming up on Christmas and we're gonna be closed for a week, giving the guys a week off, and I'm going to Mexico, so all the stuff that's been hanging out, we need to get it done and wrapped up. So there are 2 cars that we're taking care of this morning before we go on to the wide body Mercedes and also the Saga of the S55 AMG.
I'm just trying to clean the rust up off the threads. This is a bolt that's used to adjust, most likely the camber. It'll go back in easier, but it didn't distort or twist or do anything. If that stuff starts to happen, like the bolt is like useless. Like don't even try to use it.
Can we get in there and give you a hand from the inside? I can give you a reach around. Antonio would have got it. Steve is so clean in nature. When I met him, he was actually a virgin. He's had sex 3 times in his life and has 4 kids. Immaculate conception. Just a tip, don't let it slip in. I don't know what we're replacing these for. They seem to be in good shape. I'll play in the ball joint and the bushings are solid, but it makes my customer feel better, then that's what we do. Okay.
Sir.
You are welcome, sir. I'm good at getting big things in tight places. Just ask my wife. Don't cut that out. You always cut out the good stuff.
This is pretty much this is a necessary component on virtually any car that you're doing control arms on, but especially on European cars, their suspension. You want the suspension to be tightened at right height. If I was to let this thing hang, tighten these bolts, have them marked so that the alignment specs stay exactly where they were, those bolts would be tight in this position, and then as it goes down, it's literally under stress load, and basically you would destroy the bushings in your new control arm probably in a couple of months. Unless you're an aggressive driver, it could be a couple of weeks. So bringing this up and compressing it, you can kind of watch everything and make sure everything's good and make it fall off the rack. But that's when you tighten your bolts. If you tighten them any sooner than that, we got one out there right now. Somebody put brand new control arms on and done. Well, they're brand new. You can see it's shiny and they're done.
Key thing is that not to drop it off the lift. Yeah, don't take the lift down too far and push the corner up. And all of a sudden you pull a Paul Gonzalez and there it goes. So wintertime here in the Northwest, it gets really dark really early. It gets gray, rainy. I drive over Highway 18, which is one of the most dangerous roads on the West Coast as far as collisions and just pitch black dark. So lighting and being able to see is very important to me. When I got this Hummer at Bank Repo, it had some ridiculous blue HID lights that I couldn't see anything and it blinded everybody. So I put Sylvania LED lights in it, which were great for about 3 days. They were nice and bright, and then they just dulled out. Now they kind of look like halogens after a week. Looking for a solution, I came across Auxito Lighting. They reached out to me and said, hey, we have the solution, and they sent us this set of 9007 LEDs. Now, they are not sponsoring us. This was a free promo. They want me to give them an honest review. So we're gonna put these headlights in and see how they do. Now, I can tell you price-wise, they were equivalent to the Sylvania, which is a fair price, but when I opened the box, they came with a nice set of gloves to use so you don't touch the bulbs. And looking at the bulbs, these are way better built than the Sylvanias. They've even even got these tiny built-in cooling fans that the Sylvanias did not have, which I think that might be part of the problem with the Sylvanias is they just don't cool. So they've also got a little resistor on here to help so you don't get the false warning indicator about having an out bulb once you switch to an LED. So in a minute here, I'm gonna have Steve switch these in and we'll see how they fit, how easy they go in, and then I'll see how I like them when I'm driving down the road. This is the Sylvania bulb I took out. I was wrong, it does have a fan. It has a huge fan. It takes up a lot of space in there. This is a typical 8H LED light bulb. This is the Auxito, quite a bit smaller, less LED diodes, and a smaller fan so you can get into the tighter area. So we're gonna go ahead and plug the new one in, see how it compares, still having the Sylvania on the driver's side. So now Steve put the light in, it just took him a second, but we were gonna do a side-by-side comparison, but when you had a Sylvania on one side and an Auxito on the other, they're not compatible, so the Sylvania wouldn't turn on, so we had to switch both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the lights, we'll turn on the LEDs and see. I'm gonna show you two separate ways. One is the Auxito LED up here, then I'm gonna turn the fog lights on that still have the obnoxious blue LEDs so you can see those. As you can see, these obnoxious blue lights down here are what was in it before when I originally got it. Couldn't see anything, turns everything blue and is just obnoxious. This is a nice bright LED. Good job, Auxito. I think I like it. It's a good quality product. I'm gonna highly recommend it. So this is yet another time that Steve is my hero. I had a kid working for us who I did not like from the get-go, who I had to pull the motor out on this, didn't listen to me on how to do it, caused a huge mess, and then I fired him. Steve came through, put it all back together. Customers been very, very patient. We were here till what, 9 o'clock last night? And what happened?
There's like a metallic scratching noise that's behind the timing cover. Thought maybe it might have been something to do with the water pump. Pulled the belt off the pulley so the water pump doesn't spin because on this motor it's a timing belt motor. And the noise was still there, so there's not a lot going on behind the cover of this car. So we're gonna take it off, visually see where the noise was coming from. The way a car fired up, it ran great, it idled great, but the noise sounded like a rotational scratching, and it definitely was coming from the timing cover.
We did an engine rebuild, by the way, a full rebuild, and this engine was not a good candidate. It had been rebuilt before, things were done wrong, piston rings were upside down, it was missing thrust washers, it was an absolute garbage engine and not a good candidate. But the problem is, you'd think there's a billion Miatas out there that engines would be easy to come by. No, not at all. So we had to rebuild this one.
Didn't hear anything up top. Wasn't expecting to see anything up top. The lifters are all new, so not surprised that don't see anything here that looks like it's an issue. The noise definitely sounded like it was right here. And so little that goes on behind here, I just don't know.
Is it possible at this point we could hook the coil back up, put the plug wires in and run it for a second?
Here's the thing.
Oil.
Yeah, the oil's gonna fly off, it's gonna hit the belt immediately. I could, in theory, put the cover back on, the valve cover, in theory, back on and try to run it.
One thing I like about working with Steve, he is one of the few technicians I've ever worked with who does not argue with me or my ideas. Even the guys that I trained when they were 20 years old and they worked with me for 15 years still don't like to listen to me. So it's nice to work with someone who's open to ideas.
It's a pretty good idea. I mean, at this point, it's not, I can't see anything that would make the noise that we heard.
So what we're doing at this point is Steve took the timing cover off to look, and although we believe it's the idler pulley or the tensioner that's making noise, we couldn't see anything visually. So what we're doing is we're just putting it partial way back together, valve cover back on it to protect the belt from oil, putting the spark plug wires back on, and then we are gonna run it, and Steve will have the stethoscope so he can hear exactly where the noise is. We'll just run it for a minute, not very long. That way we're not just wasting our time, taking the timing belt off and putting new pulleys on if it turns out to be something different. Taking the extra couple of minutes to diagnose it properly now will save us long term. Clear?
Yeah. Not entirely sure. I'm gonna take the balancer off. The stuff that I'm seeing, I don't see anything that's making that noise. It seems really loud, like right in this area.
You see how it scratches?
That's a brand new water pump.
Yeah, but are those scratches from the pulley?
I don't think so. It doesn't look like it's touching there.
I bought a timing kit that has a water pump in it. Let me pull it out and see. I have a theory. If you look right here on this brand new water pump, you look right back here, you see where it almost looks like a machined bevels in the metal there. I have a new water pump here. I'm wondering if that pulley's not touching. And if I open this up, if it's beveled like that or grooved like that or not. And look at that, Steve. It is not.
Okay, well, maybe something over there is rubbing.
See right here, it's all smooth. Where that pulley goes, that one it's not. And this is the same brand, same part number.
Well, let's take this apart and see what we got going on.
I got him a different timing belt component kit. He's putting it back together with new stuff right now, which the other stuff was new too. So hopefully this takes care of it. We'll know here in a few minutes.
The new one's on.
Okay, so Steve has the new component kit on there now. Rather than reassembling it all and finding out we have a noise, we're just gonna do what we did before, which is run it for a minute with the timing cover off, see if the noise is gone now that we have the new stuff on. New stuff on. Nice. And that is a win. Good job, Steve.
I gotta hand it to you, mister. That was a great call. That noise is gone. The way that ran, that's what we want.
This customer paid me, yesterday was Friday evening. He paid me last night. I could have easily blown him off till Monday and worked on our YouTube stuff today, but I didn't. I have a dedication to our customers, so I missed my daughter's volleyball championship this morning to come in and get this done. And if that hadn't have fixed it, it really would have been very disheartening to have missed that to do this. But now that that's done, we can get this guy out of here in the next hour and it's all good. Just a little refresher on this car. This is the S55 AMG that I got scammed on. Give you a little throwback into some videos here to catch you guys up, and in just a second when you're done with that, I'll explain to you why it's back. Even I get burned on cars sometimes. I bought this car sight unseen on Facebook Marketplace. It was such a screaming deal for a running, driving S55 that had just broken a belt. This is an AMG, $2,900. How could you go wrong? Well, put the belt back on it after the car got here. Heard squealing, just a nasty, nasty metal on metal squealing. So I had Steve pull the oil pan and take a look, and what happened? The oil pump fell out in his hand. So fixable, very doable. I don't think that the gentleman tried to scam me. I think that it's just something that happens. So I'm in a position that I can fix this without a big deal, but for most average people out there, you gotta be careful. Buying these cars that were $100,000 for $2,000 and $3,000, you can expect to have a pretty hefty repair bill. And here's my I got scammed, not by the seller, but by the selling dealer who tried to screw me on a title. We've got this car fixed. We got everything going with it. I am waiting for an ABC module so the suspension will work properly again. The selling dealer on this car, I've called him out a couple of times. Absolute piece of garbage. Just refused to transfer the title because he didn't like my attitude. Well, I did a storage lien and got a title that way, so don't try and scam me. Don't try and scam people. Even if you're a dealer and you don't like somebody, just do things the right way. It saves everybody a lot of hassle. But this 2003 S55 AMG has high miles, but is in very, very, very good shape. It is still an extremely fast car, but like any of these highly appreciated luxury cars, you know, they all have issues. Seat massagers don't work, little things like that. That's to be expected with these. Okay, so last week, we finally got this car all straightened out. We got the motor good, we got everything working right, we got the ABC suspension working right. My friend Mike, who's worked very hard to accelerate in life, has finally gotten to a point to treat himself, and he really, really wanted this car. Now, I've known Mike since 2nd grade, and he is one of the nicest, most honest guys I've ever met, but he's also a wild man. He came, we drove this to the bank to do the wire transfer, and he couldn't keep his foot out of it. Scared the shit out of me. I don't know how many times I had to tell him to ease off and tone back. He likes the car, he buys the car. Cut to 2 hours later, he calls me and says, I don't know what happened. I was just getting on the freeway and it died. And you know me, I drive like an old man. So the engine doesn't crank. I have a theory. I'm gonna pull the undercover off and take a look. It won't crank. The engine seems like it's locked up. I'm really hoping a rod didn't go through the block or through the pan. We're gonna find out in a minute here. Well, nothing is covered in oil. There's no holes in the block, so that's a good thing. I guess, do I pull the pan off and see if we had a repeat of what happened last time, Steve? And I'm gonna pull the oil filter and see if there's any metal in it before I pull the pan. Well, I don't know, Steve. Oh, that's not good. What do you think of the sparklers?
Yeah, that's about as bad as it can possibly be. That's the worst I've ever seen. Yeah, you should see nothing. that is pretty much death glitter.
Which means, unfortunately, something failed internally in this engine. Now, if I had found a rod through the oil pan or through the block, then I would have known that he was on it, smoking the tires and blew the motor out. But given the history on this engine and the repairs that we did and seeing the oil in the filter but nothing coming out through the block, it's an unfortunate event that this engine just had a heart attack on its own. So now performance cars don't carry any sort of warranty, especially when you sell it to someone who's not an experienced driver. But the conundrum is, I don't run my car a lot like most people. I'm not gonna go tell him to go kick rocks, it's on him. I'm gonna find out a cost on an engine and see what we can do to find a middle ground to make us both happy. Whether it's he pays for the engine and I just give him the labor, or vice versa. Well, it's unfortunate. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, everybody, that this S55 that we've had such a easy and pleasant time owning has taken this unfortunate turn of events. Well, we didn't work on what I wanted to work on today, but we made some really good progress. We had a problematic Range Rover get out of here, which has been here way too long for the quick work it needed. Steve is wrapping up, found the problem, and is wrapping up on this Miata. And I guess it's brand new parts right out of the box are bad. It can happen to anybody. Had nothing to do with the way they were installed. It was just bad parts. But good job, Steve. I appreciate your work. I appreciate you guys sticking with us and continuing to watch the videos. I know we haven't been doing our usual project stuff recently. We've been waiting on a lot of parts, but now a lot of parts are inbound for the Bentley. Wide body's gonna be making a lot of progress here in the next couple of weeks, but we are coming into the Christmas break. So this is probably gonna be our last video until after the new year, unless we have some filler stuff. So thanks for sticking along. Everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.